It has to be a debate about, because the voting is local. Voting is not national. So it has to be decided at the local level. And so the policy commons has to be local, no more than state. I was observing this morning to somebody, where did this idea come from that we have to have voting organized geographically? Sort of an interesting, and it comes from, it was actually, I was reading about the British election. It comes from the UK, Britain, where where the Commons was based on constituents, and because things were local, and the constituents were there to protect the rights of the citizens against the king, and so they were constituents. But today, this geographic nature of our voting pattern means that action politically local is what is most important, because we don't have an election campaign law like in Germany, or we're children of, in this case, of the UK. We still do it geographically. In Germany, it's done at the state level, but also at the national level, and the German parliament is determined by a proportional voting system, which allocates seats not exactly proportionately to the vote, but sort of, and therefore you can have political action at the national level be much more important. That's true pretty much everywhere now in the world, except for the former Anglo-Saxon, the Anglo-Saxon countries. We also have constituencies in Australia and in New Zealand. So I think the Commons has got to be local, and the change is going to have to come from local.
The question I had is, what role does the media have in the polarization, especially the rise of blogs and talk radio and other sort of new elements in the media?
Right. Well, just to review for a second, as I explained, there are basically two factors driving this problem, if you think it's a problem. I mean, there is an argument that it's not a problem. I'm trying to be nonpartisan, but on this matter, it's a problem. But okay. But there are two factors. One is this geographic sorting, and the other is this increasing alignment between the views of the constituents, or what I call the voting propensity of the constituents, and the members. In other words, members are more reliable. If you know how the constituency thinks, you have a better chance of understanding how the member will vote than you used to. I think this is work yet to be done, but I believe media play a role in this because and I don't mean this, it's local media, or it's the ability to tune into specific niche or areas of media where you're reinforcing the message, where the message is reinforced to you from the tribe, if you will, and its creed. So you have a better access to get more information, and in particular it can be negative. That's, of course, you tend to receive negative information better than they receive positive information. So the media are playing a role, but it's not some plot by the media. It's instead just a fact that the proliferation of media have made it possible for people to get information from fairly niche sources. But the local media is very important, because going back to the point I was asked earlier, it's the local matter, it's the local media that that will also have an effect, in addition to this ability to tune in nationally. But I think more work needs to be done on this. A person who reviewed my paper, James Q. Wilson, he also attributes this to campaign finance, and I'd like to spend a little bit more time on that matter, because I think his argument is that the ability to use money locally to, in a sense, in a negative way, against a wanderer, in other words, someone who wanders off, getting punished, and I believe personally that we saw over the weekend in Utah exactly such punishment meted out to Senator Bennett, who wandered on the issue of whether a individual mandate was permissible in the health care reform debate. Over here, they got a question. So these folks are
Has
private.
Rand Corporation done any studies on effective ways that government spending and or borrowing might be limited?
Yeah, sure. That's effective, looking for cost-effective policies, absolutely. There's a lot of opportunities that tend to get, you have to get into the programs in detail to look for, the programs where you get the greatest cost-effectiveness. But that's our daily bread, cost-effectiveness of programs. And, people sometimes, want to know what influence we have, and it all kind of depends on the area, but, in the course of the war in Iraq, we've saved the Army for it must be now near $1.5 billion in how they structure their logistics, their resupply of repairable parts. That ain't bad. So, but you have to get at one that's a very narrow issue. There's a lot of, it's not the kind of stuff that makes the heart race for a lot of people, and that is repairing, distributing repairable parts. But there's a huge amount of money spent in these and so looking for those opportunities with our clients, those are where you can make a lot of dough. On tax, we don't have much to offer on that. On how to structure taxes, reform taxes, we don't have much to say about that. I have my own personal opinion, but I'm not based on analysis, or not my analysis.
My question, right over here.
Oh, sure.
I'm changing roles.
Yeah.
On your line charts of polarization increasing and decreasing, I think there was a spell in our history when polarization lessened. So I'd like to ask you if those studies suggest what factors were at play, what forces were at play that produced that result as a guide to our possible future.
Yeah, I don't know the answer completely. One, though, was the change in the nature of the economy in the U.S. South, because you had an agrarian economy, and the representatives from the South were highly protectionist. They wanted to protect their economy from any kind of. So they were from the point of view they were populists, we would call them today, from an economic perspective. That as the economy of the South changed, that later changed too, and they moved to become much more economic conservative. So you saw the movement of the Southern Democrats. In effect, as the South got richer, became looking more like the North. It wasn't so agrarian. We didn't want so much protection. The other factor was that you had the beginnings at the top, the very top there, of the reform of the Republican Party by Teddy Roosevelt. If you remember, he was a progressive, called himself. He was a progressive. Even though he had come from a background in New York, lawyer and deeply involved with business, he kind of made them mad. He began to camp antitrust and all of that. And I think those two factors together explain the changes in the Republican and the Democratic parties in that period you see there between the late 19th century and the middle of the 20th century.
Today at the City Club, we've been listening to a Friday Forum featuring James A. Thomson, President and CEO of the Rand Corporation. Thank you, Mr. Thomson. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This program is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.